This is college fantasy football week 6 on the Rookie Big Board. I'm your host, Matt Hicks, the FF educator, joined by my co-host, as always, John Lobb, the Gridiron Scholar. We are gearing up for almost the midway point in the college season. It's wild to think that already. We need to soak in every Saturday, and we are going to be soaking in some really fantastic football this week. So let's go ahead and start off our week 6 preview with the marvelous matchups. I love it. This week, we're starting with a group of 5 showdown, a Conference USA battle. It's Western Kentucky at UTSA leading the slate. Over under for this game is 72.5. UTSA is laying 6.5. Western Kentucky has a lot of weapons on offense, but they are not to be outmatched by UTSA. John, I'll let you highlight the players to watch, but want to first remind folks that this segment, we highlight the highest, what we anticipate to be the highest scoring college fantasy football matchups of the week, using the top over-unders put out by Vegas that have relatively close spreads. So, John, who's popping out for you for Western Kentucky at UTSA?
If you love college fantasy football, Matt, this is a matchup for the ages. I mean, we have the MAC conference, you have the American Athletic Conference, but in the Conference USA, we have 2 high-flying offenses. The 2 quarterbacks, Matt, in this right now, Austin Reed is ranked 2nd in CFF scoring at the position, and Frank Harris is ranked 4th at the position. So you have 2 quarterbacks who are off the charts. And what's amazing about this, the UTSA Roadrunners legitimately have 3 starters at wide receiver who are all in the top 40 at wide receiver. Zachary Franklin, we've been talking about him for a long time. DeCorian Clark, he's the player who's risen the most this year. He's now like in the top 12 amongst wide receivers. And then Joshua Cephas, who we've talked about. But all 3 of them are viable fantasy starters. You have in the backfield Brendan Brady. He hasn't been amazing, Matt, and Frank Harris has 4 rushing touchdowns. However, when you have a running back at home in a 70 over-under, Matt, I don't care. You know, he could get 12 or 14 touches if 2 of them are goal line. You know, he could get like 60 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. You have to consider Brendan Brady when you're at 72.5. And Matt, that's gone up. When I did this on Sunday, it was 68.5. Now it's 72.5. So he's a viable starter. And on Western Kentucky, Austin Reed is not Bailey Zappi, Matt. But you know what?
Yeah.
He's a pretty good facsimile of him.
Yeah,
He is averaging 46 points a game. He has been unbelievable. One of the best waiver wire pickups all year. Now, the Hilltoppers essentially have 2 wide receivers, Malachi Corley and Dawood Davis. They have others, but I would say there are only 2 viable starters at wide receiver. Joshua Simon's a long shot at tight end if you want someone, and I don't like their backfield. They throw the ball far too much. But get any player you can almost into your lineup this week in this contest.
I'm fired up for Oregon at Arizona, and I mean that genuinely. The over-under here is 70. Oregon is laying 13. John, I don't want to spend too much time talking about the Arizona offense because they are featured multiple times in our sleeper segment. But we do need to preview the Oregon offense here. Bo Nix, I know you might still have a bad taste in your mouth, but Bo Nix is a viable fantasy option, dual threat quarterback, and he has had productive weeks this season. Marquise Irving, Bucky Irving, goes by a few names. I don't know if we've landed on one yet for him, but regardless, he's been productive for the Ducks. 48 rushing attempts, 362 yards, and a touchdown. He does get vultured by Bo Nix quite a lot, which is frustrating, but the usage is there. He's clearly the lead back. And it might be flying under the radar, duck pun intended, because they're playing late at night. But Troy Franklin, the wide receiver, is having a big season. 24 receptions, 391 yards, averaging 16.3 yards per reception, and 3 touchdowns is second only to tight end Terrence Ferguson, who has 4 touchdowns. Anything else on the Oregon side of the ball, John?
Well, first, I got to give kudos to Bo Nix. I had watched him a lot from the opening game as a freshman at Auburn. I remember he was on national television in one of those big games, and it was all about him. He'd been at the championship game with Cam Newton and always wanted to be an Auburn Tiger. Unfortunately, the offense just never fired. He just never reached his ceiling. Matt, he moves up north to Oregon. They bring in a new coaching staff. He has now become what every coach should seek in the transfer portal. And ironically, on the other side of the field, Jaden DeLora, same exact thing. We have 2 teams here now that have turned around their programs through the transfer portal. Absolutely love it. I think you nailed all the guys on the Duck side. You know, you look at Chase Cota. I'm not really that interested. Don't like the tight ends. It's basically Nix, Irvin, and Franklin. If any of those 3 are available, go get them, my friends.
All right. Well, like I said, we'll get to Arizona in our next segment here. Texas Tech at Oklahoma State. The over-under here is 69.5. Still a very high over-under. To get 3 games above 69.5, that's pretty significant for this slate. Vegas is ready for a big weekend. In this matchup, Oklahoma State is laying 9.5. Oklahoma State is, of course, featuring Spencer Sanders, who was very kind to my DFS lineups last week. And then you have Dominic Richardson, who is the bell cow running back, 67 attempts, 288 yards, so not super efficient, but he is going to get the touches. And then Braden Johnson at the wide receiver position, 17 receptions, 3 touchdowns on the season. On the flip side, John, Texas Tech, for me, it's the Miles Price story here. Miles Price came on a little slow, got us all a little nervous because folks took him in the second, third round of CFF redraft leagues this year. But in the last 2 matchups against Kansas State and Texas, 19 receptions, over 100 combined yards in that game. But we need the touchdowns. We need Miles Price to find the end zone. What else is jumping out to you, John, on either side of the ball in this matchup?
So for the Cowboys, we have a wide receiver, Jaden Bray. He's questionable. So I love Braden Johnson if Jaden Bray does not come on the field. So we have to watch that very, very closely. You also have Brennan Presley. Spencer Sanders is an upperclassman. He's playing better football than he has at any other time as a Cowboy. So we're going to watch that early morning, those reports. You know, if you search the internet and Twitter, you will get live reports, from Oklahoma State, who's suited up, who's on the field. Dominic Richardson, I was very excited about him, Matt. He's not playing very well. He's not efficient. I just recommended a follower on Twitter to put him on the bench this week. I know it's scary, but I'm not in love with Richardson this week. Texas Tech side, Donovan Smith, people, this is a Zach Kidley offense. Donovan Smith is a 2-way dual threat quarterback. He's got 11 touchdowns passing, 4 rushing. He's available in like 63% of leagues. Go get him, everyone. Donovan Smith is very good. Don't love the backfield. They split it up. They distribute the ball. It's a committee there. I'm not in love with anyone. And Matt, I hope Miles Price. He's questionable. We're going to watch him too. But yes, we need some touchdowns desperately from Miles Price.
All right, and before we get to the second half of the marvelous matchups for this week, I have to point out for everybody watching on YouTube here, I am rocking the SMU home field shirt, which John has paid up his end of our, that was the rookie big board seasonal league, right?
Yes. Yep,
because John beat me in the Kings Classic the following week, but he foolishly did not place a bet on that one. So I won the week that mattered. And this is the throwback SMU shirt here. Home field, not a sponsor, but a very nice shirt. They could be a sponsor if they want to. And this was voted on. This was the selection voted on in the patron Discord. So if you are asking, why are you wearing a a very aggressive looking Mustang shirt. It was the one chosen by the patrons. So thank you to the patrons in the Discord as well. All right. TCU at Kansas here. This is game day. Game day snubbed Lawrence a couple weeks back. I think they made a pretty good decision because that was a good Tennessee-Florida game. And the patience paid off here because the Jayhawks are now 5-0. TCU is 5-0. These teams are rolling. The over-under here is 68, and Kansas is laying 7 in the matchup. On the Kansas side of the ball, Jalen Daniels, a little bit of a tempered game last week. The Iowa State defense showed up. He should be back in shootout stride this week. I'm excited about Jalen Daniels. Devin Neal has been good. I wouldn't say great, but he's getting the touchdowns. He's efficient, 6.8 yards per carry, 49 attempts. Wide receivers are a little murkier. John, I'll let you decide if you want to get excited about any of them. For TCU, for me, I mean, Max Duggan is, of course, performing well, but I want to emphasize that Kendre Miller, I mean, he has been very productive. We talked about him last week as coming on hot, and they are just continuing to feed him the ball. He was a very nice addition to my DFS lineups last week as well. What did I miss, John?
Well, Max Duggan, let's give it up to him, too. Him and Spencer Sanders have made the Big 12 here exciting. Both of them over the first month of the season have exceeded expectations. It does remind me of about 4 or 5 years ago when the Cowboys and the Horned Frogs were just lighting up the college fantasy football universe. Here they are again. I agree with you totally. Kendre Miller is a starter now. At worst in your flex position, he's on that borderline, somewhere between top 18 and 26, but he's clearly a top 32 running back right now. College fantasy football. Quentin Johnson, if you have him, dump him. Just get rid of him. It's over. I don't know if he's got a transfer. I don't know what's going to happen. It's not happening at TCU. Dugan cannot play better, my friend. And Johnson's done nothing. Nothing. If you want a receiver for the Horned Frogs, Darius Davis is the player who seems to be getting the most targets, the most receptions. So pick him up. Kansas, there's really only play I would consider. Jalen Daniels. And don't be afraid of him, Matt. I think after last week's game against Iowa State, he didn't seem to get picked up on the waiver wires. I think people are a little bit nervous. It's one bad game. That was a good Iowa State defense. They're going to be ready for TCU. I expect Jalen Daniels to have a bounce back here. Why I do like Devin Neal, Matt, Daniel Heshaw is out. So he's not going to be there. He's been really productive the last couple games. So you now have Devin Neal and Kai Thomas, the freshman from Minnesota who transferred over. So those are the two we're watching. I don't like the receivers, Matt. He spreads it around. They rotate. There's no one I really want here on this wide receiver core.
Washington State at USC. Over-under is 66. USC laying 13. We'll circle back to this game in the best bet segment. That's called a teaser. All right. This one's exciting for me because it's a 7 o'clock game. We've had to wait till 10, 11 o'clock at night to see this USC offense. We get to see it a little bit earlier, and we get to see them paired up against another good offense. Washington State has been exciting this year. On the USC side of the ball, it's Caleb Williams, of course, 12 touchdowns, over 1,400 yards early season. Very impressed by the way he's protected the ball, just 1 interception so far. Also, running the ball, he's scored 3 times this season, sharing those rushing attempts with Travis Dye as the lead back, 422 yards and 5 touchdowns through the early season. Those Travis Dye touchdowns really pushing him forward. And of course, Jordan Addison is an auto play, but Mario Williams is getting his. He's found the end zone twice early season. On the other side of the ball, Nakia Watson is proving to be a dual threat running back, catching passes, also scoring on the ground for the Wildcats. And then Cam Ward, of course, throwing up 13 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He's still developing as a Division I college player. I got to tell you, the wide receivers, they all get enough action, but it can be a little bit frustrating because it feels like a roulette match. Like, which wide receiver is going to hit this week between Donovan Ollie, between Stribling, and now even Renard Bell is getting into the action.
Yeah, Matt, and last week I had the wrong one. I put my prize picks on Stribling. He just didn't have the targets. And it's roulette. Stribling, Bell, and Ollie, I'm sure the coaching staff identifies the most beneficial matchup. Ward is a smart quarterback with lots of experience. He finds that mismatch, and he peppers. Usually seems like one guy is sticking out in almost every game. Guessing who that guy is a challenge. I would say they're all flex options. I wouldn't put them in if I have most leagues are 3 starting receivers. They're all flex options, not within the top 36. And USC's just, you got them, you start them. There's nothing else to say about that.
All right. The Tar Heels traveling to Miami. Over under here is 66. Miami's laying 3.5, which is interesting. Well,
I had to look at 3 websites.
I know it's one of those ones you got to double check, and then you're like, what do I not know? But we'll get back to it. We will get back to that as well. North Carolina, true sophomore Drake May has been lights out. 19 touchdowns, 1 interception, just shy of 70% completion on 165 attempts. He has been absolutely outstanding. Josh Downs is back. He's healthy. Bryson Nesbitt, the tight end, sneakily getting 3 touchdowns so far this season. And you won't catch me hyping up one of these running backs because talk about roulette. Hampton is starting to get more of the carries more consistently, but that's a tough one. On the other side of the ball, Tyler Van Dyke is still clearly developing, not a CFF play, really struggling with just 4 early season touchdowns. And then both Henry Parrish and Thaddeus Franklin have been involved in the running game. Now, Parrish has 67 attempts, which is almost double Thaddeus Franklin, but Thaddeus Franklin has 5 rushing touchdowns compared to Parrish's 4. Never exciting when you have that split backfield. And then the wide receiver room has been a rotation of guys here. Nobody really scoring often, and not really one exciting option since Xavier Restrepo went down with injury. And unless I'm wrong, John, I believe he's still out this week.
Yes, right. As of now, my reports say that he is out. And Matt, Cristobal and this offensive system and the new coordinator, they've really torn Tyler Van Dyke down. They've hurt his NFL draft stock, his CFF. I'm lucky. I didn't draft in 10 drafts one Tyler Van Dyke. I was very worried about Cristobal, and I said it over the summer. He ruined Justin Herbert. I mean, Justin Herbert in the Pac-12, who's arguably top 5 quarterback in the NFL, he should have been lighting it up. Yeah. And he did it from a college fantasy football. So I had no faith in this coaching staff. Don't like the receivers. Matt, why didn't they bring someone in? Where's the transfer portal? What are they doing in Miami here? You've got to have some playmakers. And Matt, I alluded to it. I had to look on 3 websites. How is Miami favored by 3? What am I missing? There's only one thing I can figure out. Home team and North Carolina can't stop the run. I think Vegas is telling us the Hurricanes are going to run the ball 50 times. That means Parrish and Stanley or Franklin and Knighton might all be legitimate. I like Parrish. I love him this week as a sleeper. I got the reports say he's going to play. We'll watch closely. Parrish is the guy. Because you look from an offensive standpoint, North Carolina is so much better. But their defense is so bad. And we like their running backs. Hampton, Jones, Green. But they rotate them. Petaway. Hampton maybe is the only one I have confidence in.
All right, there you have it. Our Week 6 marvelous matchups. Fantastic 4 sleeper segment here. Me and John both identify one quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and a flex play of guys that you are not quite high enough on this week. This segment becomes more and more important as the season goes on, right? Lots of bye weeks, lots of flex need. Even some of us need to plug in for those main spots in our lineups. And so these are going to be some players that you're going to want to put at the top of your consideration list here. John, starting with your quarterback selection, Riley Leonard, quarterback at a Duke.
I just want to apologize to the listeners. I've had a very bad cold, so I'm a little scratchy. I've been on warm tea and honey for about the last 8 hours. So I was questionable, but I made it, Matt. I'm here. All right. And the bye weeks starting in week 7, 8, 9 are going to get thorny, people. Riley Leonard is available on 90% of leagues right now. It doesn't matter what you think of Duke, the offense. It doesn't matter what you thought of Riley over the summer. The reality is right now, Riley Leonard is producing fantasy points. He has scored over 24 fantasy points in 4 of 5 games, Matt. This week, they play Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, total defense, is surrendering 411 yards a game, 29.5 points a game. Riley Leonard's a dual threat. He can pass and run. If you need someone, go get Riley Leonard. And he might help you through the bye week. Casey Filkins. Over the summer, I know we talked about, I love DJ Smith. I drafted him on like 5 of my 10 teams. He was jamming for the first 2 games. He got hurt. Now we find out he's out for the year. Go get Casey Filkins. Matt, I did a little bit of research. He's 5'11", 198. He was actually the number 1 recruit in the state of Oregon and a top 15 all-purpose athlete by 24/7 Sports. He's a good player. I don't think he's as good as E.J. Smith, but you can plug him into this Stanford running game, and he's a pass catcher. He has scored over 20 points each of the last 2 games in a PPR scoring format, and he has 8 receptions in the last 3 games. Go get Casey Filkins. He's the guy that you want here. Matt alluded to Arizona. I'm not going to talk about anyone but the guy on the board here, Dorian Singer. Matt, the last 3 games, fantasy perspective, 31 points, 18 points, 15 points. Dorian Singer has been very good for the Wildcats. 32 receptions, Matt, 450 yards. The only thing that is holding him back, he's only got 1 touchdown. But, Matt, they can come in bunches, and they're not easy to call. He might just have a big game with 2 or 3 touchdowns at any time. I like Dorian Singer. And I don't usually put tight ends here, but I was watching Ball State. We had talked about the quarterback last week. I talked about Carson Steele a couple weeks ago. Ball State's an exciting offense, Matt. They run like 83 plays a game. They score, and why I like them even more, their defense isn't good. So you have a high-scoring defense with a high-scoring offense, the terrible defense in the MAC. Well, watching it, Tanner Kozel, a true freshman. Matt, look at this size, 6'7", 230. He's really a tweener. He, like 6'7" but he's probably not a wide receiver explosion. So you put him at tight end. He's a complete mismatch. If you need a tight end, go get him. Matt, for the season, he's a number 5 college fantasy football tight end. He's only owned on 37% of rosters. Go get Kozel now of the Cardinals.
All right, here kicking off my fantastic 4 sleepers of the week with quarterback Jayden de Laura. So we're getting back to that Arizona team we alluded to. A 1,633 passing yards through the start of the season and 14 touchdowns for Jayden de Laura. Jayden de Laura is in an interesting situation. Oftentimes when you hear of transfer quarterbacks, it's because they didn't perform well at their last school. Jayden de Laura performed perfectly fine last year and chose, with all of the turnover in Washington State, to transfer to Arizona. And this is a team that needs de Laura, and he is showing up and balling out. Against Colorado last week, 484 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. Now, this week he's playing Oregon, and you might be saying in your head, going from Colorado to Oregon is not the same thing. But Oregon has allowed 331 passing yards per game. That's third worst in the nation. Colorado, despite getting crisped by Jaden DeLora last week, is actually 45th in the nation in pass defense. So if Jaden DeLora can do that against the 45th team, he certainly can perform well against the 128th team in the nation in passing defense. The game script should push a high octane game. The game script will work in Jaden DeLora's favor. It'll work in your favor if you slide DeLora into your lineup. Digging a little bit deeper here, I'm going to go Jordan Byrd at San Diego State University. Now, very slow start to the year. And if you just looked at the overall box scores, you might be wondering why I'm recommending him. But over the last 2 games, he has 29 carries. That was compared to 13 carries in his first 2 games. All right, so the Aztecs are moving towards him. Hawaii, his opponent, is allowing 294 rushing yards per game. I had to double check that number. It seems impossible to give up 294 rushing yards per game, but the Rainbow Warriors are doing it. Last week against Toledo, a much better team, Jordan Byrd scored 2 touchdowns. He puts this all together, John. It's a smash play this week. Jordan Byrd under the radar, definition of a sleeper. Now, let's go to Tennessee. I'm going to go with Brew McCoy. With Cedric Tillman out against Florida, Brew McCoy had 5 receptions for 102 yards and a touchdown. He had that one awesome reception where he was fully outstretched. I believe it was a 70-yard reception. With Cedric Tillman down, Brew McCoy stepped up and became a critical part of this offense here. Now, Cedric Tillman is not ruled out for this week against LSU, but it's not looking good. He did have a procedure on his ankle, and head coach for Tennessee, whose name for some reason, somehow, Josh Heupel.
Josh Heupel.
In my mind, I'm like, I cannot forget the Vols head coach right now. He's notoriously quiet about injuries. I think if I'm reading between the lines, I think Tillman's a scratch again this week with Alabama on deck. And if Tennessee has the ability to be fully healthy against Alabama, they're going to take advantage of that. LSU gave up 337 passing yards last week against Auburn, against Robbie Ashford. Can you imagine what Hendon Hooker is going to do against LSU if Robbie Ashford can put up 337 passing yards? And then the flex play, John, we're digging deep, and I'm putting a little bit of a disclaimer on this. You got to play this one with a little bit of caution, all right? This is me getting excited about what I saw last week, but running back Cody Schrader, a JUCO transfer to Mizzou, ran the ball 6 times for 89 yards against the Georgia Bulldogs, the most talented defense in the country. Now, Nathaniel Pete, the main running back, or, running back 1 on the depth chart, I should say, did run the ball more last week. He ran the ball 9 times compared to Cody Schrader's 6. I expect them against Florida to both run the ball more. But if I was looking at that Mizzou offense and this Eli Drinkowicz clearly needs a spark, I'd be leaning on Cody Schrader. Florida's giving up 216 rushing yards per game. So it's absolutely an offense that they can take advantage of, a rushing defense that they can take advantage of. John, finishing up our Fantastic Four segment here, give us the 4 players that you can build your DFS lineup around if you're choosing to play in a salary cap game style.
Matt, I gave everyone the option of what game they want to stack. There's so many good games on this slate, and I wanted to go with more medium-priced guys. I'm going to go Tagovailoa this week. Maryland's at home against Purdue. Let me repeat, at home against Purdue. There's going to be points in this game. Tagovailoa's had a better season than people are giving him credits for. He's only thrown 8 touchdowns, but he has over 1,400 yards. He's averaging 21 DraftKings points a game. He had a high against Charlotte of 40. So we have a really nice season, a nice ceiling, Matt, and we have a nice average, and he's at home, and he's under the 7,000 threshold. I love Tagovailoa here. Matt, Mississippi's backfield. I wanted Zach Evans to be the man. I thought he was going to be the man. He is more expensive. He's $800 more than freshman Quinshon Judkins. Matt, Quinshon Judkins right now is playing better football. If I'm going to save $800 in DraftKings, check out his last 3 games, 22, 30, and 22 DraftKings points. I'm going to take Judkins here against Vanderbilt. I'm saving so much. You can go with Zach Evans if you want, but I'm going Judkins. That's a big salary savings. What I saw last week, Xavier Worthy's back. He hurt himself against Texas Tech. He came out of that game. They didn't play well without him. I don't care who's throwing the ball. Ewers should be back. I don't have any idea how Oklahoma, who just got carved up by the Horned Frogs, how they're possibly going to stop Xavier Worthy on the deep passes. He's only 6,300, Matt. Absolutely love him here. And you mentioned it. I'm not going to repeat what you just said. I'm in complete agreement. Brew McCoy for 5,700. I think Hooker's going to go off here. Love me some Brew McCoy.
Time for best bets. All right, the newest segment of the week, and John, my personal favorite segment of the week. It is our Prize Picks of the Week segment. The Rookie Big Board is now teamed up with Prize Picks, a really fantastic addition to any Saturday watching college football. If you're not familiar, Prize Picks, you get the opportunity to connect a set of over-under props, and then you pair them up into parlays. You can do a parlay of anywhere between 3 and 5 player props over unders. And then you have the ability to hit on multipliers with the Rookie Big Board. If you want to try out Prize Picks for the first time, use the promo code RBB. RBB is the promo code, and you get a 100% deposit match up to $100. So you put in $100, they give you $100 to play with. You put in $10, they give you $10 to play with. If you have not played, I'm telling you, download it, throw in $10, give it a shot. It's going to be a fun addition to your Saturday game watching experience. I threw in to start. I'm still playing off of the money that I deposited because I just keep winning. And that's what me and John are going to do here. We're going to go through one quarterback, one running back, and one wide receiver prop each that we're playing this week and that you could go ahead and play if you want to give it a shot. It has college football. That's what we talk about, but it's got NFL. It's got a little bit of everything to it. John, I'll let you go ahead and start here with your quarterback prop.
And Matt, last week we went 5-1 combined. Congratulations, you hit it out of the park at 3-0. I ended up 2-1 because of Stribling, which I'm still bitter about that, but we move on, we move forward. I said last week, I like these passing and rushing and receiving combo yards, and I've been hitting them. But then this week, Matt, I'm going for passing rushing combo. The Gators are hosting Mizzou. They played their hearts out and still lost last week to Georgia. Now they got to go to Florida. Richardson, I believe the Gators had a week off. Florida's had a whole week to prepare for Mizzou. I don't have to predict, Matt, if Richardson is going to run or throw. I don't care. I'm going over 272.5 combined yards. So he can have 80 rushing, 210 passing. I hit the nuts there with him. I love that combo. I think the Gators are going to destroy Mizzou here. Take Richardson with the pass and the rush.
All right, here we go. Like you said, John, perfect 3-0 week. We're going to go another 3-0 this week, and we're going to start it with Hendon Hooker over 295.5 passing yards. Okay, against Pitt, Hendon Hooker, 325 passing yards. Against Florida, 349 passing yards. John, the only reason that Hendon Hooker went under this number against Akron and Ball State is they didn't need him to throw the ball, right?
Yeah.
When they need Hendon Hooker to throw the ball, he's going to throw the ball. And we just talked about LSU's defense getting carved up by Robbie Ashford last week. I don't even feel like I need to explain this anymore. This is a smash play. Prize Picks is doing our listeners a favor by laying down this prop. It's a really good introductory prop. Just use that RBB. You'll be good to go here. John, your running back play this week.
I think people are going to forget about Anthony Grant of Nebraska. I looked at this fantasy points, and this is receptions, yards from scrimmage, and touchdowns, just like most PPR scoring leagues. The first 3 games of the season, Matt, he shattered 17 points, 24, 32, and 20. The last 2 weeks, he is not. You know why? He didn't get in the end zone. Anthony Grant is by far the best player on the Cornhuskers offense. As long as he gets into the end zone, which I do believe he will, because they don't have a running quarterback. I guess Thompson can scramble, but it's not Adrian Martinez. Grant should easily smash against Rutgers this 17.5 fantasy points.
John, I'm glad you picked this one. I almost picked Grant, the rushing prop. I believe it was 101.5 yards.
It was a little high.
It was a little high, but if you look at his production this year, I thought it was a pretty clear smash play. But I saw this one, and I like this one even more. Nathaniel P. under 63.5 rushing yards. So I talked about Cody Schrader, the running back for Mizzou, who I liked as a sleeper this week. So it makes sense that I would play his backfield mate, Nathaniel P. under 63.5. I think it's going to be way more of a split than Prize Picks is predicting. So I'm going to go with the under on rushing yards. John, your wide receiver prop.
This makes no logical sense other than game script. Boutte has only exceeded 9.5 points once. Second game of the year, 13.3. He missed the game. He has had a baby, or his a wife or girlfriend has had a baby, so he missed the game with the baby being born. Matt, you've discussed at length today. Tennessee should be able to throw the ball against this LSU defense. What does that tell me? LSU is going to have to throw the ball in the second half to try to remain in this game. Boutte is still their best wide receiver. I got to believe that. He's got to come through at some point. Matt, we're only looking at 9.5 fantasy points. He could literally get a 50-yard touchdown and you smash this. So I'm going to go with Kayshon Boutte here to go over 9.5 fantasy points because of game script against Tennessee, who should put points on the board against the LSU defense.
I love how there's so many options about this. You're picking fantasy points. We're doing rushing yards. And this last one, I'm doing receptions. There's so many different ways to play. Touchdowns is one as well. We didn't pick touchdowns this week. But Charlie Jones over 8.5 receptions. All right. Charlie Jones, I might have played this last week. I feel like I go back to the well a lot with Charlie Jones here because it just keeps hitting. Week 1, 12 receptions. Week 2, 9 receptions. Week 3, 11. Week 4, 9 receptions. The only reason this is at 8.5 instead of 10.5, which is probably what it should be at, is because Charlie Jones had 6 receptions against Minnesota. Charlie Jones left the game for a portion of time, and it was the portion of time last week that Purdue was really pushing their offense, and they got ahead. They were able to scale back a little bit. So I think Charlie Jones over 8.5 receptions is a really safe play as well this week. So that is our Prize Picks segment. Again, that you could use the link in the show description on YouTube or the podcast, or use promo code RBB for an up to $100 match, 100% of whatever you deposit. John, let's finish up as we always do with our best bet segment. We're back. All right, we're climbing back into it. John is back to 500, 9-9. I'm at 7-11. I thought I was 8-10 because I actually won last week. I tripled my money that I played last week. I won all 3 bets. However, I mixed them up in what I actually played on DraftKings versus what I said. It worked out in my favor, and I only ended up missing the Kentucky money line by a couple points there at the end. But either way, I'm 7-11. John's 9-9. We're 16-20. The competition's getting close, and we're getting back closer to that 57%, which I believe we had combined last week. John, start us off with your point spread pick of the week.
I had a hot start last week with UCLA winning that game. I stayed up way too late on Friday night. What a great game that was. I'm going an underdog again. However, this is on the road. And I have really fallen for this Ball State offense. I think they can score points. I like the hook. It started at 8.5 on Sunday. It's come down to 7.5. Get the hook now. They're playing Central Michigan. I can see them backdooring this. I think they might win, but I'm not on the money line. I think I need the hook here. Give me Ball State plus 7.5 on the road against Central Michigan, Matt.
I'm not sure Vegas is over the first 2 weeks of the season for the Tar Heels. That's the only thing I can rationalize here for my point spread pick. I'm going UNC plus 3.5. UNC is getting 3 points against Miami. All right. They played tough against Notre Dame, right? That's their one loss. They played tough against Notre Dame. They've beat up on a good Georgia State team that I believe has not lost a game outside of North Carolina. They won a tough Appalachian State game, and Miami has not performed well at all this season. So this pick is much more about Miami not being impressive than it is UNC being impressive. But I believe in this offense. I believe that they're going to show up against this Miami defense. This one feels really solid for me. UNC plus 3.5. John, your over-under play. We're doing a callback here all the way to the top of the show.
You know, best bets are different than fantasy. I still love everyone in the Hilltoppers Roadrunners. However, last week I won with the Clemson North Carolina State because the under was too low. This time I believe the over is too high. This opened up at 68.5, Matt. It's now 72.5. It's gone up 4 points. All we need is these quarterbacks to make a few mistakes. We can keep the score. It could easily be, 35-33. Austin Reed has not played a big game on the road. He played Hawaii and Indiana. I will argue that UTSA is better than Indiana. He's going to have a challenge here on the road. Frank Harris, I love him, but he can make some mistakes. He threw 3 interceptions in the second half last week. That really hurt the Roadrunners. I'm going to go under here. If it goes under 70, I don't know if I take it, but it's 72.5, which I got it right now. I'm taking that under.
All right. I went under 62 for Mississippi Vanderbilt. I will throw this out there. Out of the 3 picks I'm making, this one I'm the least confident in. I found the over-unders to be difficult this week. I thought they were placed very well by Vegas, but I'm looking at this game here. It's Ole Miss coming off of a big win here and a sneaky Vanderbilt team. They're 3-3. I think Vanderbilt is going to want to slow this game down. Clark Lee has come out this week and said the emphasis for Vanderbilt is on defense. I think Mississippi is going to look to run the ball first because, John, as you alluded to, between Judkins and Zach Evans, they have the ability to run the ball first. And Jackson Dart didn't look ideal. This is a red-hot Ole Miss team that may come out a little sleepy against the Commodores. I think they win, but I could see this game being a lot lower scoring than Vegas is predicting here. Under 62 for Mississippi and Vanderbilt. John, money line pick here.
Give me the juice, baby. I'm a believer. I know people are going to look at the Jayhawks. They're ripe for a loss, and I get it. They're the darlings of 5-0. ESPN is going there. They've sold out. This is their 3rd home game. The Jayhawks have sold out this year. They're getting plus 225, Matt, on the money line at home in front of a sold-out capacity. I'm going to take that juice. Max Duggan, even though he's played great, Matt, we know he's up and down. We know there's a stinker coming somewhere from the upperclassmen of the Horned Frogs. Is it this week? I bet Jalen Daniels rebounds. The Jayhawks are going to win this game. Give me the juice at plus 225. They remain undefeated.
Feeling red hot on the money line. I nailed JMU 2 weeks ago, nailed Wake Forest last week. On Tally Site, which is a great third-party company, I put my picks in there every week. It goes up against all the top betting experts that are pretty much putting out content anywhere. I finished third overall in the money line picks last week. And so, John, I'm going red hot. You know, we go for juice on this show. I'm going Washington State plus 380 against USC. This is the trip up spot. All right. USC is red hot. Everybody finally believes in them, right?
Yeah.
Washington State, I mentioned it earlier, it's a good offense. They can punch back. I think USC has faced a lot of opponents this season where they punched them with their offense. The opposing offense wasn't able to keep up. Washington State can keep up. Oregon State gave USC a good run a couple weeks back, and I'm going to pick the Cougars here to go with the upset, and at plus 380, you're getting a lot back from it. John, our listeners each and every week are getting a lot back from the time that they invest into listening in this show. We appreciate it. For watching on YouTube, make sure you like the show. Make sure you're subscribed, whether you're listening, whether you're watching. As always, we appreciate you checking out this episode of The Rookie Big Board.